today we are having a very special guest. Eric Chahi is with us. Uh, as you know, he is the creator of Another World, and now his last game is released, which is called Paper Beast, and today we are going to talk about his game design journey from Underworld to Paper Beast. And hello, Eric.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be with you. And yes, the idea is to cover my creative journey from the early beginning in during the 80s to now. So I will talk a bit on all this period, and then you can ask question or yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, Eric. Yeah. Actually, we are very excited about it because it's kind of like, especially for me, it's kind of like a dream for me because yeah. As I told you earlier before, I'm still showing Another World as a case study to my
Hmm.
game design students. So it is a really an honor to have you here. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, by the way, I should also mention we also have here John Oral from Celtic Games, the creative director of, founder director of Celtic Games, and me and John will moderate this session today. So we are going to go like that.
Everyone, it's a
Yeah.
real honor to be able to talk with the gentleman present here.
Okay. Thank you, John. So today we are going to have first Eric will have a introduction. So he will just shortly tell about his journey, his game design and development journey, and then we will continue with comments and questions from Underworld to Paper Beast. Yes, Eric. So the stage is yours. Maybe we could start with your presentation. So let me just. Okay. Now your both webcam and your screen is active and online.
Okay, cool. So let's start with the beginning. From first let's cover shortly the different era of my creation. There is a first part which is from the 80s, from 1983 to 1989, with 8-bit computer, etc. So this is the first section. Then we will talk about the second section with the 16-bit era with the Amiga computer and game like Future Wars, Another World, and then Heart of Darkness. That has been a transition between the new generation of console and CD-ROM. And then we will talk about the last part, so which is the From Dust Paper Beast time. So let's start with the beginning. So the first influence was clearly the arcade game. I was absolutely crazy about this game. I can't spend a lot of time on it because it cost a lot of money, and I can go to a cafe without my parents.
So your first encounter with video games was through arcades,
Yes,
arcade games, Eric?
yes, arcade games.
Mhm.
I had a console which is the Video Pack Philips, but that was not a very good console. But really, the solid foundation that involved me to computer game was the early arcade game.
Mhm.
And in 1982, a friend of my parents share me this computer, which is like a calculator computer, but you can write some line of code in it, and it gives me the kind of flavor of what is the code. And then in 1983 at school, so I was 15, and my mathematics teacher she gave some lesson during the lunchtime to some the people that were interested of coding on the ZX81. So I wrote my first line on this computer, and but I didn't have a computer at home, so and we can't save anything. So we wrote the code, and then at the end of the hour of learning, we have to cut the computer. So and,
good exercise, huh?
Yeah. So at home, I was because even the keyboard, it was totally new, and there is on this computer, you have function on each key. There is a different functions. You have to press different combination, and you have to memorize it. And I use newspaper, computer newspaper, where there were some ad of this computer to memorize before the lesson, to go as fast as possible to enter my line of code. So just to learn the keyboard, and hopefully later, and not so much later, in June, I got my first own computer, which was the Auric one. And of course, the first thing I wanted to do was to create a game. And I create some kind of arcade game. So Frog was my first game. And it was recorded on tape. We saved at that time all the data.
Like Commodore 64, right?
It was on the Auric one, and yes, you mean?
But they were both using the cassette medium, the tape medium.
Yeah, yes. Every
Makes
computer has some has floppy, but most of the personal computer use tape. And so this is a game I made in 2 weeks. It was wrote in basic language, and I did another one just 2 weeks later. That was the summer, and this is a clone of the arcade game Carnival. And this is the tape. I made the design of the tape. Beautiful, isn't it?
You still own it? Is it still at home?
Yes, I own it. And this game has been published, indeed. Because I proposed it to the importator, the distributor of the Auric in France, and they say, yes, we would like to publish it. So they give me the choice between money or hardware, and I choose hardware. So I got a printer.
Good investment.
And so today you have so many tools to create things, but at that time you have a computer, you have the basic language inside, and you have no tool. So for the graphics, I had to enter the bytecode to change the letter, the character, the font, and so I draw the graphics on a millimeter paper, and then I calculate the binary of each line to put it into the program. So,
were you using X and Y coordinates of the pixels to reanimate them inside the software?
So it was working by line. The character is a matrix of 8 pixels by 8 pixels, but the one line of I calculate the value, the binary value of each pixel, and so that was power of 2. For the first pixel, it was 1. For the second, it was 2, 4, 8, 16, and so when you had this value, you will lit every pixel of the character. But later, later I made a small, very simple tool to move a cursor on the screen, and so I can really draw directly on the screen, which was much easier. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
Okay.
yes, everything is very cool right now.
So this is the third game. It was still on the Auric one, and it was an adventure game, very classic adventure game. You can write your some word, go to North, open this chest, and etc. Very, very. That was very common at that time, and it has been published. And this one was the first game I code with assembly language.
So, Eric, what was your inspiration behind the Anubis game? Was it like the very first Sierra adventure games?
No, because I think that was a game, Mystery House. Do you know?
Yeah, it's the first game by Sierra.
Okay, so
actually,
I
the very first graphical adventure, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, okay, because I didn't play this game, but there was clone of this game in France. So I was influenced by the clone in France of this game, and there were very cool magazine in France named Jeux et Strategy Game and Strategy. It cover a board game, but also a computer game, and they cover this kind of adventure game. So Anubis was kind of direct inspiration of existing game and what I read. And yeah, so this game was coded in assembly language. So it's really the low level language of the computer. And I had the chance to be in a computer club where there were an engineer that know this language, and he teach it to me. And so I created this game, and it was still published. And let's talk about how it was in France at that time. So everybody were indie, and so very many people create game at home or as a hobby, and then small publisher, maybe around 3, 4 very tiny publisher decide to sell a game first to the French market, and they were looking for a new game. So I went to one of these publisher, and we signed an agreement. And so if it sold well, I get money. And so that was really a publishing, a straight publishing deal, like for a book or for a record. And
But they weren't giving any kind of finances to actually develop the game back then, right?
No,
You
no
were
fight.
developing the game with your own blood and tears.
Yes,
But yeah,
yes.
okay.
But I was at school, so I was doing this in the evening or the weekend or during the vacation,
Uh-huh.
and so it was roughly one game per year. And in 1985, the Amstrad switched to the Amstrad CPC, and it was higher resolution, but still kind of color, more a bit more color, but still very typical saturated pixel game, and I start to improve my graphics level and animation level progressively. So Infernal Runner was it was a port from an existing game on the C64, but it was I interpret it, so I did not respect everything. And this game, Le Pact, was a big transition because it is the time where I decide to leave school and to work, to become a professional full-time creating game. And it is also the first game where there is really a special mood, an atmosphere where before it was more arcade, kind of arcade, but here
Yeah.
it was really, I want to create something.
Atmospheric, thematic
Yeah,
kind of a game it looks like.
yes.
So were you watching a lot of horror films back then?
Sorry?
Were you watching a lot of horror films?
Yes. Yes, and this one was directly influenced by Amityville.
Political horror. All right.
Yes,
Mhm.
the house is
Yeah,
clearly
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amityville house. But there were a lot of interesting ideas in this game, like the help of the game was made by spiritism, spirit. Um, you connect with the spirit with a glass that is moving around a table and choosing
Yeah,
letter. And if you photography some levitating object in room, the demon will appear to you. So it was really influenced by this kind of horror movie and the Lovecraft kind of atmosphere.
yeah, 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 I can see.
And for the story, you see the cover totally black on the front with only the
Yeah,
title, but on
yeah,
the
pretty
back,
original for the time, I have to admit.
but yes, but moreover, on the back it was the same. It was black with only text, and
Like Metallica Black Album, huh?
but yeah, but nobody would do that because when you go in a shop today, you can go on Steam, you see picture, but if you go in a shop, you only have the box, and if you flip the box and you only see a text, you have absolutely no idea of what is the game, how it looks. So
Mhm.
Loriciel, the publisher, realized that it was a huge mistake, and they add sticker with photo later.
I
Yeah.
see. So there was also a marketing lesson learned
Yes,
over there.
yes. Uh, and then I decided to create an ambitious game that I never finished. It was a game that could generate arcade game. You manipulate a button, slider. I want a game, more arcade, more driving. And you press a button, it would have generate the game related to your choice, but it was absolutely not possible to do, and I decided to kill this project. but I use the piece of code that I create for this concept project to create 2 games, but I don't really like. I'm not proud of this game because, well, it was not good. So that's why I called it recycling. And
But at that time, you were making enough money to solely focus on developing games and nothing else.
but that was limit.
Okay, limited.
Yeah, yes, really. That was and the technology were moving fast. So the big jump was to the 16-bit with the Atari ST, and I started to be lost with the code because I tried the C language and the tool were complicated. So I get lost and give up the programming and I switch to graphics. And the Amiga was really a revolution graphically and even for the audio. Um, and,
Definitely. The color palette was it is still very charming.
yes, and and there was a fantastic tool named Deluxe Paint on it, and I decided, okay, I can do everything now. I can do programming and graphics. It is too much. So I've decided to focus on graphics, and I get hired for to be a graphic artist in a company named Ship, and so I participate to the creation of these 2 games, Joan of Arc and Journey to the Center of the Earth from
Jules Verne.
Jules Verne.
Ah, so,
Yeah.
yeah. So Eric, so you worked in those games as a game artist this time.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
very interesting. Yeah.
and most of the graphics was mixed with a mix of digitalization, scanned picture,
Photographs.
photo, and some
Video.
drawing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was not very skilled yet, but and the company start to have a financial issue, and at the end of 1988, a new publisher came in France, which has been a very important publisher because uh, they gave a lot of freedom to their creator, and so this is not my game. Pure Challenge was the first game of this of Delphine Software. It has been created by Paul Cuisset.
Yeah, yeah. I've played a lot of Dolphin software games in the past.
and, and it launched Delphine Software. Who Delphine Software is a record company, a very big record company. It was a very big record company, so they have a lot of money, and they just give a try on this field, the computer game, because inside the company there were some people that were passionate by this.
Mhm. Like visionary people.
Yes, yes.
Definitely.
And in 1989, I was looking for some work, and Paul Cuisset was looking for a graphic artist for his next game, Les Voyageurs du Temps or Future Wars. And I got the job, and so on this game, my skill was really very fluent. So, and we were only 2 on this game, plus a composer for the music, and we did it in maybe 6 or 8 months.
Uh,
Not that much.
Eric,
Yes.
so you work as an artist in that game, right? Not as a like a designer or a developer?
No, no, I was only the graphic artist.
Okay.
The scenario, the story was made by Paul.
But I think in a way I think that you are influenced by this game, especially for Another Worlds, which will be the game like coming after, like in terms of game feel, atmosphere. I don't know, because both games I think have share a lot of common.
Yes, for the graphics, I think
Uh,
there is because it was a time where I get a lot of influence from uh, illustration, fantasy illustration, and for example, this one that you see on the screen is a typical kind of Michael Whelan illustration where there is sometimes some minimalist flat shape and
Mhm.
so yeah and
Were you reading the heavy metal magazine back then?
which magazine? Sorry.
Heavy metal. There was a magazine called.
Yes. I was yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
The heavy metal was my universe of
Yeah.
with and especially Richard Corben has been a big influence uh,
Definitely,
on
definitely.
me on
Mhm.
another world he
A very
influenced.
unique artist, for
Yes,
sure.
yes, and so and then after Future Wars, um, it has been a big change, Future Wars, because it was for the first time a game allow me to create a new game on my own, really on my own. Because of the game was sold outside France, and it has been also a critical and a commercial success. And and the tool, the coding tool evolved, and on the Amiga, I learned GFA Basic and assembly language, and some coder I met at Chip learned me some they teach me some basic things about this language.
So
So
you returned to coding with Another World again.
yes, I go back to coding for another world. So
It should have been a nightmare, huh?
no, it was very fluent indeed. I was a bit
Cool.
scared with my previous experience on Atari, but here I had a bad experience because I code in C language, but here uh, I code in two languages, GFA Basic for the tool and assembly language for the core engine of the game with a polygonal shape and the both were connected. So I push away the C language and this basic I know it since a very long time and I was very familiar to the logic of assembly language and I create an interpreted language uh, that can all the gameplay was made in this interpreted language. So and the tool were made in let's say 2 months only. So everything was were very fluent. A lot of work because I was alone, but it was already fluent to create the game. Even if of course at the very beginning I had a lot of doubt of where I will go and navigate. So it has been really an improvisation process. And yes, it took 2 years to create this game.
It is a huge achievement to develop that kind of an experience in 2 years with those tools at the time by yourself. It is, you know, it seems like a breaking point, really.
Yeah, it has really been a breaking point for me. Um, and especially and also for the state of mind I had when I create this game was very different from the game I create before. I was really creating this game thinking of I create this game to see something I would like to live in a game, but I try to feel it. When I try something, I try to feel it, of course, as me. But if it was me that never saw these games, so it's a bit a schizophrenic approach.
We all are, you know, as
have-
game designers, you have to be
You have to-
sometimes
So I
schizophrenic
try-
as well.
Yeah, you have to forget yourself for a while and just feel it as it is something new. So you can, of course, it's not absolutely 100% possible, and that's why playtest is really important, for example.
Yeah.
But you can really feel it, and if you feel something, it's in a good way, and that was the logic of creating this game. Feel it. That was the first.
While you were working on it, you know, did you sometimes feel that, you know, you are doing something special that would last? Did you have that kind of a consciousness while working on it, or
Something
it was just
special.
another game?
Something special, yes. Something special that would last. No, I don't know, because you never know, indeed. But I have the feeling that it was clearly new. This kind of animation was new, but on the other side, the graphics were much more simple. So I was absolutely not sure that
I see.
player will be receptive, because most of the game were made of bitmap, where you can have a lot of pixel devouring, subtle hue, and here it's very flat. So
Yeah, it somehow feels vectoral, Eric.
Hmm?
It somehow feels vectoral, like with vectors, but it is not. So it has some kind of a pseudo 3D kind of a feel. So like, what kind of a solution did you find to have, you know, this visual approach, this visual style?
it was the starting point was to create a game using polygons, because polygons use very, very few memory. With you can have let's say 10 dots, and it will create a shape that cover all the screen, and it can be stored in 20 bytes, and it's really nothing. And but I was not sure of, should I be able to create nice graphic with such simple data? And so I say, okay, there is a lot of potential, because if it works, there is no need to load data from the disk. Everything should be loaded at least for a level in one time.
And I guess you would have more space for better animation, right?
Yes, better animation, and even for the audio. So that was the bet, and so I code a polygon function, and to see if was it fast enough, and how many polygons could I draw in a frame. So that was okay, and say, okay, but to create visual with polygons, I need a tool. So I start to create the tool, and okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, we
Okay,
can.
okay.
No
Everything's
problem.
all right.
Yeah, by the way, Eric,
So so that was just and because of this constraint to have a polygon shape, it led the graphical style. So this is the limitation of the technical choice that bring the flat aspect into the game, and I felt very comfortable with it because I love black and white drawing, and you can really create a shape just by creating a shadow, a very shadow, but only a part of a shadow, and you can have the viewer will build the rest of the picture outside of the white or outside of the black, just because there is the correct continuity. I'm not sure if I expressed myself correctly, but
you are saying that that you are giving enough space for the imagination of the player,
yes,
so that they can imagine the rest of the let's say the scene.
Yes, and
Yeah. By the way, maybe I can also give a very short info about the Another World to the audience. It is one of the few games which is selected for the uh, Museum of Modern Arts in New York. So it is definitely an art piece. So yeah, it was for us. For the for our generation, or for the again for also the other generations. But also a contemporary art museum also selected this game for its collection. So it is, I think, a very important milestone in the game history. And also, I'd like to say one more thing. And you said that we were all indies during those times, especially
yes,
at the 80s, like by doing games by yourself and etc. But I think with this game, the indie term has gained a new meaning. Especially, it is very close to the meaning we have now, like being an auteur designer, like also thinking about the script, the scenario, the art style, and etc. Because before those times, like in the 80s, people like they have to be indies to develop games, etc.
yeah.
But this time it is a choice you made.
Yes, it's a choice because it was changing. For example, Delphine Software, after Future Wars, Paul decided to set up an internal team inside Delphine with salary people, and so that was what we are calling today classic studio shim. And but I prefer to stay really outside as
Solo.
an indie. So that was really changing during the beginning of the 90s and to the end of the 90s too. And the game, yes, had a very good reception from the player. So that was really cool. And
So
but
did you also work on the ports of Another World yourself? Because at those times, there were, dozens of ports to
uh,
Amiga, to PC, to Amstrad, and all that
uh,
deal.
yeah, at that time that was Amiga, Atari. So I did these two versions, and the PC. Someone did the port of the PC, and for the SNES, Super Nintendo, and the Mega Drive version, Interplay was in charge of the the port and the publishing, and there were the 3DO too. So, but I was involved in the port because, well, when you have a game that starts its life on Amiga, and then we wanted to have if you go to a console, well, you have to adapt something. So Interplay did a lot of tests, so they found a lot of bugs, and so I polished the game, and there are some limitations about censorship with Nintendo.
Yeah.
So
Those days, Nintendo was very, very child friendly, right?
yeah, no blood,
Yeah.
not possible. No,
And
no.
some of the deaths in another world, some of the deaths that you have created, they're very, gory and vicious in another world. Some of the ways that you can die, it really had an impact on us at those times.
Yeah, you always die in this game,
Yeah.
really. And so I have to change the color of the blood by something green. And it changed totally today. There is no problem with this, and maybe there is too much blood today anyway. But that was really, well, that was sometimes 3 pixels, and that was too much. So, and sometimes that was 3 pixels, that because there was some very suggestive nudity in the game, and I have a picture here, but at the end of the game, you can see alien woman from in a near a pool, but they are just nude. You can only see their back. So they asked to remove the crack of
the S.
the S, but it was only 3 pixels, so that it looks more like a swimming suit.
Yeah, but
So
for young people, they can catch those 2 pixels.
Makes all the difference,
yeah,
man. It makes all the difference.
so I remove it.
Great.
Yeah. And then after the success of Another World, I start Heart of Darkness with other developer, and this game was very long to create because it was another transition. We decided to create a game using the CD-ROM, create cinematics with CD-ROM and 3D graphics. And 3D graphics demands a lot of time to be created, and the technology was moving really fast. We start with the DOS, and then it goes to Windows, and then the console of the PlayStation. First, the Sega Saturn arrived, and the PlayStation. So we have to redo some part of the game, and so it has been a long creative time to do this game, and we were all
For me,
exhausted at the end of this game.
yeah, I can guess. For me, the animations of the shadow creatures in this game, it was one of the best that I've seen in a 2D platforming kind of a game. Like the animation style was, really top notch, and I still, fondly remember this
Yes,
game. So did you instead of working on everything yourself with this one, I guess you started to work with animators and
yeah, but
background designers. So can we
the
say that you were the creative director of this game instead of making everything yourself?
yes, yes, I was a creative director, but I also made some part of the game, like the scenario, but also I did some many lighting for the background and for some cinematics. Not all, we were a team, but it was a field where I work a lot, find the right light, color, etc. And for the animation, there were sprite animation, so the character you're moving, the shadow you were talking. It was an artist named Christian Robert who did this 1,000 frame of animation.
Yeah. The frame rate is really good, man.
And for each frame, from each frame, we made a logic tool to say from which frame to which frame we could go. So it is very fluent in terms of transition of motion between any state. So if the player, for example, is starting to jump, but you decide to go back or to shoot, it will choose, it will branch to the correct animation flow, so that
You developed a special tool to handle those transitions between different animations.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
It was very smooth. It explains it.
so yeah, it has been a kind of achievement to do this, and the 3D graphics we were already on the we were not following the trend of the time. The trend of the time was really to create very technical things like spaceships, and but here we decided to go to a natural look in 3D, and that was very unusual. Very few game did this.
Eric, I guess like with your every game, and besides the like the artistic challenges of the game, you are also confronting the technological challenges of that era, right? Like
Yes.
like for example, now with the last game, we will talk about Paper Beast, which is in VR. But here, this time, it is a game which is the first time on CD-ROM, and before it is Amiga. I don't know. So like, so every time you are also you have a challenge with the technology, and you are trying to overcome the technology
Yes.
too.
Yeah. You're right, and I think sometimes I'm a bit too crazy because it brings a lot of complexity to discover these new technical things, and but it's also very exciting. So, but yeah, sometimes it can lead to troubles. Just because, for example, this game has been much too long. It's not good to spend
Yeah.
6 years on a
Yeah,
game.
6 years, man. So didn't you have any kind of problems with the publisher
Yes,
that
we
it was
had.
taking too long?
Yes,
Like, did you feel any kind of pressure?
we start with Virgin.
Hmm.
We haven't started with Creo, but a few months. But finally, we end up with Virgin very shortly. But during 4 years, we were with Virgin, but they start to have some doubt about the game, and we will finish it, and then they had some financial trouble, so they decided to not to kill the game, but that was the next step. They said us, okay, we don't want to continue to finance this game. So find a publisher, and if you find a publisher to continue project, fine. So
I see. And they didn't get any profit from the final product. I mean,
no,
Virgin.
no, because yes, they get refund from the investment they already put into the game, but
Okay.
regarding
Okay.
it was sold to Infogram,
Mm-hmm.
and so for us it was good indeed, because Infogram was very motivated by this game. They get it when it was almost finished. So yeah,
So
they
it
were,
was a good deal for them.
yes, but it was a good deal. It was a good deal for everyone. Virgin want money; they get some cash. Um, Infogram get a game without taking the risk to pay during many years. It was almost finished, so there is no risk
Mm-hmm.
to end up with a game that can't be published, as it happens
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we got a fresh publisher that was that pushed really a lot of behind the game when it has been released.
As far as I know, Infogram is also a French publisher, right?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and but Interplay was in charge of the publishing in US. So,
Okay.
but yeah, after that time, I start to get really tired, and the industry were changing. Um, Industry get bigger. It really became an industry with a large studio, very large publisher, and I was not didn't feel comfortable at that time. So I've decided to take a step back, and I travel a lot. So I travel. I had two. I was not traveling all the time. I was doing some code a bit, and painting and photography. But
Mhm.
this travel, I'm speaking about the travel because it has an influence for the next game, which
Mhm.
is From Dust. So I walk into the desert, the Sahara, and which really has been a striking experience, because you feel it's very dry, so there is a few vegetation, few animals, but you really have a very large landscape, and you really feel the earth and the time that passed. You can see rock that had here
Yeah, Eric.
since.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had I also had the chance to stay in the Sahara Desert
Yes.
for 2 nights. So
Okay.
it was a very timeless and spaceless experience. Like
Yes.
just like you said, you just have the dust, the sand, and
Yes.
it was a very different experience, I must say.
Yes. And you get very connected at the same time to the nature, but to yourself.
Exactly, exactly, definitely. Yeah.
Mhm. Because there is literally almost nothing else. So you better be right.
Yes. And but what is striking is that because humanity, there is people that are living here, like Tuareg, and but also there is um, some painting on rocks. So, and you can see painting of giraffe or crocodile, and you say, okay, not a very long time from here, that was very different. There were probably it was more like the African steppe, savanna, I mean, and so it say that okay, a lot of there is an history that can be read on this place. The story of On the Rock, from the wind that erode the rock, some drawing from the humanity that lived here before, and so that was very mineral and geologic, and there is another geologic aspect, which is the volcanoes. I discovered that it was possible to see active volcanoes on Earth, and not only on TV. I did some travel on active volcanoes. First with a tour operator, and then by myself, but being very careful. And that was the Earth in motion. I mean, the rock is really in motion. It's the birth of the Earth. You can walk on a rock that maybe have a few days or few hours even of existence. Before it was only lava. And it has been a striking experience, and especially in comparison of what I live in the desert, and kind two very opposite aspect of the Earth. The desert, which is kind of erosion, entropy of the Earth, and the volcanoes that are the starting point of a new life. So in 2006, I start to think of project before, but I start to contact publisher, and I contact Ubisoft to get in touch with Ubisoft to see a possibility to work together. And in 2008, a team were built to create a game with me as a creative director. And so we start from dust, and which end up in 2011. And yeah, that was so all there is volcanoes, there is active volcanoes, there is simulation. You already play with the terrain, so all the influence of the desert and active volcano were here into that game. And and as you said, it was really pushing some new boundary of gaming by playing with a simulation, a fluid simulation that was not very common. And so yeah.
Yeah, I think as it is also it's also like a simulation too, like, and it's also pushing the boundaries of technology in terms of that, especially fluid simulation, just like you said.
And then from 2000, I start to prototype new things before 2013. Prototype 2D locomotion, but I had the opportunity to work on a volcano project for a museum, a simulation installation. So I love volcano, I love simulation, and I met a GPU coder that want to do that too, and he joined later Paper-Beast team too. So
did you continue any of the technology that you developed in your previous game from Dust
It
about
was,
the eruption of volcanoes and stuff?
yeah, it was the same kind of algorithm,
Mhm.
but it was not the straight code from we did at Ubisoft, because Ubisoft
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
is very proprietary. So,
Mhm.
but this kind of algorithm is came from the research, and especially there is a lot of paper since the 90s to today about fluid simulation. So we use this kind of algorithm and we improve it and bring our own logic, because here the goal was to create something quite realistic, and so it can create the same kind of shape and on this volcano, which is on a Reunion Island,
Mhm.
and you can see the temperature, and you can see how the volcano shape. And the funny thing is that because we had to decide a place where the eruption should be for the museum, and then 1 year later, an eruption happened exactly on the place we choose.
Wow,
So
really?
yes, so and but the moreover, we did another because that was an application for a touch screen, and then we did it for virtual reality, so you can watch virtual reality, an eruption in virtual reality, and we choose another spot, and maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, an eruption happened exactly into that spot, which is a really highly touristic spot, and where no eruption happen here usually. And
Wow.
so,
So you are,
but
yeah.
it's a touristic spot. It's not a place with a house. It's really on a natural place, but it is near a trek path. So everybody know that place. So yeah, that was already an exciting project to do. And then in 2015, I discovered more of virtual reality things, especially with after the Oculus, there were the HTC Vive, which who bring controller, and you can really interact with controllers
Eric,
with your yes.
yeah, maybe at this point, maybe I can just show the trailer of Paper Beast.
Oh yes,
Yeah, which I already have for the
yes.
for not the Discord, but for the people watching us from Twitch. Just
Mm-hmm.
just a second, and then maybe you can also give a break
Yeah.
at the same time.
Okay.
I think you are all. Just a second. Let's see. Okay, so I'll just show the trailer. Right. And it's on.
Animation.
Yes.
Okay, good. um, so yes, the so the Vibe has controller and it changed everything because you can already interact with things virtually and so at that time I wanted to create a game about wildlife and so I did some prototype of 2D locomotion long time before the Volcano project and so I decided to set up a team to create a game based in VR and based on the life simulation, and so things evolve, and so
And also, Eric,
not, yeah, yes,
I guess, and also by the way, at that time you also founded your own company.
yes,
I guess with that game, right? Pixel Games.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, exactly. I found it to create this game because before I worked with Ubisoft.
Ubisoft. Yes.
So yes, so here it's really it's my company and so it's an important move for me um, and um, and so we start in February 2016. So it is finally a 4 years project with a team, which is really the limit after it starts to be long, and
Mhm.
so there's a lot of technical things to achieve for this game.
I guess again, right? You have to again
Yeah,
overcome a lot of technical difficulties.
yeah, yes, yes, and yeah, because simulation is not easy, but in VR it's more complicated because you have the constraint to have a very good frame rate for the VR, which is at least 60 frames per second.
So
And
the idea of using paper animals as the wildlife of this world,
hmm,
did it come from those technological limitations, or was the idea there from day one?
yeah, it comes from it the technical limitation. We uh, indeed uh, in VR it's really sensible what we call the Uncanny Valley, where
Mhm.
where something is almost realistic, but not enough because it is really clearly, it sounds really false. It's like when you're playing, let's say, 2 notes of music, or let's say the same note. You have two instruments that play the same note. If one is just below the same frequency, it becomes horrible. So, and
Yeah, yeah,
here
yeah.
if you have a, let's say, a texture of a model in 3D that looks almost good, but is not but
It
it's
becomes all of a sudden disturbing.
yeah, it sounds really odd. So we decide to create a game which deliberately it should not be realistic, and I'm not especially attracted by doing something realistic, but here it was clear that it should not be realistic, and to don't have this limitation with Uncanny Valley, and to have less polygon too, so everything can be very sharp, and if it is well designed with low poly, it is a part of the style. And but the first
So
thing was
just like in another world, in that
yes,
sense,
yes,
both games share a low poly vision.
yes, exactly. And so, what kind of style should we have? Paper kind of origami animals uh, would work well. So that's why it's called Paper Beast. And but it shifts slowly to a more a broad diversity of visual. Uh, Pascal Lefort, or the graphic artist who did all the modelization and the sky and the rock. He he proposed some other kind of creature with jewelry stuff, and so it works very well. And but how do we shift from the idea of paper to something, to this universe? Because the paper played a role, because the game set up, it's an ecosystem that is born aside humanity, but inside something that has been created by humanity, which is the internet, all the data server, and inside this data server there is the ball of life, and this is the paper-based world. But at the beginning it was not clearly that. And
And in
this,
a way, I played the game, and
yes,
I haven't completed the game, right? And also, I really like the way that we are falling in the game, like with an accident, like we
mm,
are like in a kind of an entertainment zone, maybe
yes,
a VR zone, but at that time something happens, and we found ourselves maybe in that world, which is yeah, which was a
yes, it's a glitch that bring you here,
yeah.
and you're the first to be here. And it's really like a birth, because you have this curtain around you, so you don't know where you are, and
Definitely.
you're inside this creature. I
And
don't want to spoil,
definitely. I also don't
but
want.
well, there
I
is so
also,
many videos. So, but yeah,
and
um,
yeah,
yes,
I was just saying that yeah, it's a glitch you said, and I think we especially like
yes.
oops,
I can't
sorry.
hear you.
Yeah. I was just saying that especially these days, like we also have, we also need those kind of glitches in our lives. it's
Exactly.
it's
Paper Beast has a lot of level of reading, and it's really
definitely.
open to the reader, to the player interpretation. But
It's kind of like a
it,
big metaphor
y-
for life,
yes,
for even religion. I don't know. I find a lot of different, like especially that journey, like you are kind of like a pilgrim. You are kind of like a pilgrim, like having a journey. I don't know. It's kind of like those like crazy ideas coming to me these days.
yeah, yeah, it's and everything open door to different topics and subject, but in a very metaphorical, poetic way, and very surrealistic. This game is absolutely very surrealistic, and when it is surrealist, it really touches you straight inside you without any word, and that was really the goal. And so we play with different plays and rhythm and event. So, and because the thematic of wildlife and the thematic of glitches and data, it's not common to mix them together. And this idea came from the paper because it's always disturbed me, this world, with all the data we have in our world, and the way sometimes we can be disconnected from the nature, and so, and
Yeah, I can really understand you. It's kind of like very difficult to tell this game. Because it's an experience. I mean, since
yes, it's an
it's an
experience. Yes.
experience, and also playing it in virtual reality really also improves that experience definitely. Like having that immersive world around you and interacting with the world itself, and in a way playing like a god, but also at the same time kind of a being in between those creatures and helping them, getting help from them, and etc. Very interesting. But that game also has a sandbox mode. Maybe you can also tell some stuff about the sandbox mode. I will also show the video of the sandbox mode too while you are
Yes,
speaking.
the sandbox mode is really a place. It's a playground where you can play with the behavior of the different animals and see what is happening, because each animal has its own way of life. There is kind of herbivorous, kind of predators, and but also animals that interact a lot with the terrain and with the ground. Some are dropping some sand, some are creating some terrace, and all this can create a little ecosystem. So the goal of the sandbox is to play with the ecosystem and see what is happening, play with different items that can, for example, you have kind of ropes, you can link entity together. There is a exotic object that can repel the water, that can froze the water, and so if you play with this, you can see the terrain evolve, and there is erosion. So you really play with life, and there is a pleasure to shape your world and to see it evolve, because you can launch storm or sand, dust, and sandstorm. So it's really a playground. There is no goal, and yeah, that's it. So
Yeah. Okay. Eric, by the way, I guess that was the end of that was your last slide, right, for your presentation.
yes, it is the last
Last slide.
slide. Yes.
And now I guess we can take some questions from the people here.
Sure.
Volkan, can you help us about the questions? Yeah.
Okay, I've jotted some of them at live chat from Twitch too. We had some from the first slides, and Rolf GT on Twitch asked, "How did you write the code in 1982?"
In 1982, how do I write code? Are you if you are referring to the small computer. You're referring to this computer?
I believe that was the question.
So, well, you have one line. There is only one line here. So you have maybe let's say 30 character. So you wrote a line, but you don't have an overview of the whole code. But you can print it. There were a port on the side here, where you on the left side, and you can print your code. But yes, that was mainly to do some calculation, and you can that was very limited. So that was code. Sorry, I did not answer to your question. The
No,
language,
yeah,
the language
I think
was
that's a good enough question.
the basic. It was a basic language.
I believe then for the next slide, one slide after this, there was a question about which platform for these games.
You mean for?
Yeah, these like the few slides after that come after the 82.
Okay, this game. Yes, I
For
think.
example, yeah,
Yes.
all these games. Where did you play it? Where could you play it?
You have to go in a shop and buy it, and yeah. No, just I think but there were no internet at that time.
Yeah.
No mobile phone, so when you have to. It was manufactured and sold in shop, and for a story, a frog and carnival, I never saw it in a shop. Because the selling was, I think it has been sold maybe at 1,000 pieces or 500 pieces. So I never got the original. What you are seeing here, it is the master, the tape that was used to.
Do you sold others?
Yes, I still have it. Yes.
Very cool.
Did you sell any tape games after these? Like also, this goes to my other question, the other question from Twitch. Did you make any money from these tape games, distributed games?
Yes, I made. For example, for this one, I made few money, like maybe 5,000 francs. So it is
I guess
maybe 300. Yes,
Yeah.
but it was not profitable. So yeah, and this one was okay. And I say because I create one game per year, so I did the calculation. Because I was at school, so if I can create 4 games per year, I could. It will be okay. I have a correct level of life, but so yes, it was not easy to have a profitable game.
I see. I believe you said something about desert experiences throughout the talk, and someone asked, wondering if any inspiration for games striked after the desert experience.
Okay, I think I answered partly to this question because the game was from Dust.
Yeah.
And but there is no Paper Beast was in the continuity of this desert influence.
But I guess also, Eric, in 90, like the slide before your game also takes place in a desert, like in 1984.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess your passion for the desert starts from like 1984. Maybe.
Indeed, no, because there's only one screen about the desert, and then you are inside the pyramid. So it was more a kind of Indiana Jones influence
Oh. Yes.
because there were a lot of trap in that place.
Okay then. Yes. Okay.
Okay, I got another question from one of our professors this time. He first said that Paper Beast looks fantastic and designed very well for VR. He had a few questions. I'll just list them all at once. How many people built this experience? And what was the difficult part of developing it? And what was the most challenging part?
We were around 15. Yeah, around 15 people. And the most challenging part was the technical part because to have the simulation aspects working, it has been really a struggle to have this working inside Unity engine because we develop our own GPU calculation. Many calculations are done on GPU, and we develop our own physics engine. So it's not Unity 3D physics engine. So we have to have both. We went to PS4. It has been more complicated because we had to rewrite part of our code on DLL so that it can work fast enough. So the performance was a big challenge on this game. And so the other challenge was the design of the game too, because it's really unusual to have a game about wildlife where there is absolutely no world, only you're just in direct interaction. And yeah, and for but many aspects, the audio has been a challenge too. So there's but yes, I think that the most difficult was the performance and the technical challenge. Yeah, due to VR.
I have a little question about the development, actually design side of it. What differences did you see, did you feel in creating experiences between normal screen games and VR games?
It's clearly the feeling of space because you can feel the real size of object. If you see this in VR, it will have a really that size, but yeah, and you can play with it, and you're really inside the world. It's absolutely different from, for example, a 3D movie. You can see a 3D movie in a theater, but it's not the same at all because the size is changing always with different cuts in a 3D movie. But in VR, you can change your size, you can change the size of the object, but you're really inside this place, and that's really cool to play with the variation of space. You can go in some small place and then suddenly open to something really wide. And yeah, and you can feel almost physically things when you hold it. So that's the big difference, I think, but with a flat, almost flat screen.
Hmm. We got another question about, is it possible to implementing GPU-based simulations on the server side for maybe possibly an online experience?
The problem is it depends of the amount of data that is simulated, because if it is online, it needs to be sync, and the more data you will have, the more sync. It, it depends. If there is, let's say, two computers and every computer is doing its own simulation, it must be enough deterministic, so you don't have to send only the minimal data. But if it is not deterministic, you have to send the simulated data, and this is another problem because you have a latency. And if you want to for example, to share a terrain with flowing water on it, and there is if it is a resolution of, let's say, 1000 by 1000 cells, so it gives 1 million cells. So you have to make sure it is the same on both. So yeah, not easy, I think.
Okay, we got a question about the future. What is the next project, and will it be VR or not?
I don't know. I don't know yet. Wait and see. I need to. I don't know. It's really VR is really interesting, but flat screen is very interesting too. So
Yeah, Eric.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to ask that, since yes, yeah, VR is like developing very rapidly, but as we know that not everyone has the VR hardware these
Yes.
days. So it is in a way, again, your game is kind of like a pioneer in its era. So it's one of the, I think, one of the first blood, let's say. But when I played the game, and also like when I like during my experience on game field, it is also a kind of an experience which could be used for educational purposes, I thought. I don't know if any educational institution has approached you to use maybe your sandbox, your game, to teach uh, about, I don't know, about nature, about
Evolution, maybe.
about stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah.
No, not really. But yeah, uh, there is potential. Yes,
Yeah, I think it has a
definitely.
great potential in that way to use in classes too. I don't know. It is yeah, maybe even for art classes, for creative purposes too. So and hopefully, for example, yeah, like after like Half Life, the Half Life Alex has made
Yes,
a lot of people buy VR and
yes.
VR headsets, and I think your game also will make people buy headsets,
I
and
hope.
hopefully a lot of people will play in near future.
Yeah. Um,
Thank you.
yes.
I guess John is trying to ask something.
Uh, Eric, when I think about your games, what stands out for me is always in the details. When I think about Other World, you know, although the game, has a minimalistic approach in visual storytelling,
Mhm.
The details in the animation, the details in the game, and the reactivity of the world was really making the experience special. And Heart of Darkness is has that kind of a feel for me as well. And Paper Beast, it's also seems like I haven't played the game in VR yet, but the details in the interactions that you make with those creatures, makes it somehow special.
Yes.
So when it comes to game design, do you have some kind of a threshold, some kind of a limit that you put yourself until something's ready to get shipped? Because the details, they come later, but if you do not invest enough time in the details, you'll be losing a very big part of the experience. So
Yes.
how do you balance it?
Um, that's yeah. Yes. The details are here to bring the correct feeling of life, of living, of make it believable. But when should we stop? That's not easy, and sometimes it is the time that say, okay, be careful because start to be a long time you're on this game, and it's time to release it. So my approach is to, but it's not always easy to do, but is to first create the technical 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 piece, technical part that will be used to create the core game. But so you have to iterate. So let's say you can create, for example, the locomotion system for the creature in Paper Beast. We work 1 year on it, and we iterate on different level to have it working first on a normal ground, then on slippery ground, and tune it so that you can easily play with the parameter, and had a lot of care so that how the algorithm creates something that feel alive. And then so there's it is, and for another word that was the polygon aspect, that was the technical part. So create this and then use this to create progressively the game, and have an improvisation approach to create a game, which is I did not do it for every game since Another World, but I did it for Another World for Paper Beast, and it is very first you create the beginning of a game, for example. I think it's interesting to start with the beginning of the game, and then to make it work. It must work. It must be good, enjoyable, and then you go to the second level, etc. And by doing this, if you build on the top of it, you know that what you create before is working. So you don't have to say, okay, if sorry, I'm a bit confused, but I will re-explain different approach. By shape it on the top of what has been already created from the beginning of your creation of game, you then arrive to something that is really coherent in terms of player experience. And but the risk is that you can spend a lot of time on the beginning, maybe too much, and so you end up with a game that is maybe you will not have enough time to finish the game. Because the other approach could be, and probably many games are created like this, you think to the game as a whole, you planify the level design of every level. You say, I want this game mechanic for the beginning, this game mechanic for the end. But if you didn't create it and code it and test it before, you can arrive to a point that, okay, finally the mechanics in the middle don't work well, but it was used for the end. But well, now what should we do since these middle mechanics don't work? That's why I prefer to work in an improvisation logic. And
And you work like layer by layer, right?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
but it could work. I think it could work for any kind of game, for an open world, something that is not linear, but just build progressively when you solidify something that works. You build on the top of it, and you don't destroy what you have done that works. It's a new constraint. And when you are doing some theater on a stage, there is improvisation theater, and when an actor is saying something to the other one, it's a new part of the rule, and you have to accept it. You don't say, "Hey, no, guys, I'm not okay." You don't have an example, but for the public, it would not be acceptable. So you have to bounce on it, and you discover sometime really
A new
cool
thing. Yeah.
cool things. So yeah,
Yeah, you have to adapt to the situation
yes. So
and the show must go on, right? With your
yes,
yeah.
so it's find the right balance, because in computer game you have a lot of techniques, you have the design, so you have to find the right balance with this. And when there is a lot of technical aspects that can take a lot of time to be done, it's not always easy. But yeah, that's my way.
Yeah. And also I think your way to like while you are designing games, you are also you are inspiring from the life itself and also your inner self. So because nowadays, especially like now, it's a big industry, just like you said, and people are really trying to design games with some ready-made like templates.
Templates.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. But actually, designing a game is about life, so you have to also live the life too. Like, if you want to design a desert game, you have to go to the desert actually to get that experience, to get that feeling, so that you
exactly.
can transfer it. So in a
Yes.
way, so that's why I'd like to thank you again for all your games, because
Thank you very much. That was a pleasure to speak to you.
yeah,
Yes.
because I think all of them are great inspirations and milestones, and actually learned lessons for the people who wants to design games in future, and because I think when they are young they don't understand it that well, but in time, I think they will understand.
Okay, cool. And I would like to add just one point regarding the process I was explaining. Because I had a pitfall on, for example, on another world. I didn't do playtest during the creation. I think that it is something I would add as a recommendation for the improvisation process is to have some playtest during this process. It would be a real important point. Yeah.
Like quality assurance and playtesting throughout the production process instead of making it at the end, right, Eric?
Yes, to don't wait the end of a game to do some playtest. Really do it on the first level and see. The goal is just to check if people understand
What you mean?
yes, exactly what you mean, and if they can handle it in terms of controls, in term of do they see this character, or do they see this object? Just something that is something very functional about how to interact with a game, because it could be could lead a lot of trouble. And yes, it is something.
Later stages, huh?
Hmm?
It's much more of a bigger trouble if you face this reality in later stages
Yes, exactly.
instead of earlier stages.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Eric, you, you you are not telling about your next game, which is very understandable. But will you also continue to design in VR too? I mean, will you continue to work in VR? Or
I, I love VR, so yes, but it's a balance between the energy it demands to create a VR game and yes, in terms of effort, and so I don't know. I would love to, but it will, and it could also depend of the subject of a game, because depending of the thematic of the game, it could be more VR game or more flat screen game, because indeed there is a for VR game you can have many kind of VR game, and for a flat screen game you can have many kind of flat screen game. So it really depends what you want to communicate. So yeah, maybe it will be a 2D super pixel game. Maybe no, I don't know. Yeah, but I'm open to VR game. I'm still open, very open to VR game. Yeah.
okay, yeah, we already exceeded our time, like half an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like half an hour. So
But someone can ask a question, no
yes,
problem.
yes, we have now, I guess, the last question from Semi. Yes, Semi, please write it down. Okay, he's writing. So again, thank you for your time. By the way, Eric, yeah, we already exceeded like half an hour.
No problem.
Thank you. And by the way, and hope to see you in Istanbul. If later on, I mean, like after this situation.
If the world can become a more normal place.
Yes.
Yeah, it will be a pleasure. Yes.
And maybe even we can visit you with our students in your studio in Montpellier.
Yes, you're welcome too.
Thank you. Okay. Semih is writing a very long question, I guess. Uh, okay.
Uh, okay.
Okay. So,
Interesting question.
so, so, so I also like to read the question for the Twitch
Yeah.
audience. Semih asked that during the development, do you ever feel down or think about quitting? If so, how do you motivate to finish your projects when you feel down?
The main motivation came from the result I or we already have with the game in development, because you can feel something is good in the game, and you know that this part uh, needs to be finished. The game needs to be finished because it will be uh, too much waste that it doesn't happen. And and when you feel it is um, really too ambitious, during the presentation I was speaking about this arcade game generator. That was clearly at the time. It was clearly too ambitious, and the it doesn't start to grow, and so you have to give up some time, and but the motivation, yes, came from the what you already feel about your game, and that's a very sensible point when you start with a team, because when you have people, you have an responsibility and engagement to finish the game for a publisher or you it is it's where it's very important to
Yeah, but by the way, Eric, I guess I'm just showing the picture of your team, yeah, Pixel Reef,
yes.
which I guess now you're not alone. You're not by yourself. It seems that it's a very good team, very fun team. I mean, the picture says like that. Uh,
Hmm.
I guess you are now like much more happier with doing it with the team, right? So that I guess your team also motivates you too.
Yes, there were a lot of emulation with people, and yes, we are all passionate people, so um, there were a lot of personal invest in, I mean, people put their heart into the game. Yeah.
Makes sense. Um, okay, people. Any questions, or let's say the last question? Do you want to ask, or John? Do you want to add a last comment? Because
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd like to thank Eric for this, very nice and long conversation. It was an honor, sir.
Uh,
Thanks a lot.
thank you very much. That was really cool.
okay. And lastly, I'd like to repeat that yeah, even we showed the trailer of the PlayStation version, but the PC version of Paper Beast has been released last week. Like so, so feel free to experiment the game. Even you can play the demo of it too
Mhm.
before buying it. And I think it's a very good reason to buy a VR headset. so, so please also remind that it is it's a masterpiece. I just I don't want to. I mean that's my idea, but like with your each game, it is kind of a new era is starting for the game scene. I think so. Yeah, thank you for all the efforts and also your team too. So. So I guess Hussein is writing something, and then we will leave you. Yeah, I promise. And then we will leave you. I promise.
So
Okay.
okay.
Uh,
So thank you.
okay. Yeah. He said also thank you, and says good luck with the new good games.
Okay. Yes. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. And also, if you need any playtesters from Turkey, Istanbul,
Okay.
we are more than we are like yeah, we'd like to volunteer definitely.
Okay.
So let's be in touch and yeah, and also I guess my students will also ask for internships later on. And again, if you have those kind of positions, you can also like announce. We can also announce your those kind of open positions in Bug Lab 2, because we have both masters and undergrad students, so they will
Okay.
be
Yeah.
they will
Definitely keep in touch.
definitely. So thank you again. So thank you, Eric, and hope to see you soon. Hope to see you soon in person
Mhm.
in someday, and maybe in a desert. In,
Yes, that would
yeah,
be nice.
yeah. Who knows? Okay.
Meet you in the desert, Eric.
Yeah, we'll meet you in the desert or in a volcano.
Okay. Yes. Both Volcano and Desert.
Okay.
Hopefully not active.
Hopefully. Yes. Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you very much. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye,
Bye.
sir.
Take care.